Hey, welcome into the Worship Band Builder podcast. I'm Eric Roberts. I want to thank you for being here, and I want to also welcome you into a new era, or I would say maybe a new season of podcasting here in the new studio that we're going to be talking to people that I know, friends, people who I've done ministry with, people from the past and new people. And it is going to be more in-depth, more open forum, and just kind of a fun time. So I hope you enjoy these longer form, in-depth conversations with interesting people. My first interesting guest in this new season is a friend that I've met recently. His name is Dan Sinclair. I'm going to give you a quick bio of him, rundown, and then we're going to get right into the episode. But Dan has had a long career as a software analyst. He has a master in theology from Williamson College, Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry, North Carolina State University. He's served as a teaching pastor, served as a worship leader, and actually can sing. I heard him sing the other day. He's got a good voice. He's got like a good rock voice. He's contributed to programs for marriage, mentoring, and Celebrate Recovery. He has a blog at wholereason.com. That's wholereason.com. And he's going to be talking about one of his new books today, Lectio Divina. And I'm still learning how to say this, and I'm actually learning how to do it. And that's one of the things that I really like about this episode. This episode is important, because as pastors, as worship leaders, as Christians, we can just get on our own. We can get away from the Bible. We can get away from God. We can get away from the source. And I feel like I have done that, and maybe even am in a season of that now. And so this episode is extremely important to me. I'm starting this journal, and I'm going to start studying in this way and trying to reconnect with God in a deeper way through some of the things that I've been wrestling with, through some of my issues in health and family. Everything can come down on you, and that's the season that I find myself in now. So this episode specifically is perfect timing for me, and I hope it is for you too. The links are in the description. I'd like you to be able to get the book on Amazon. It's a prayer journal, and everything is going to be in that description. Also, if you like these episodes, subscribe to the channel, click the like button, and let's get into it. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're doing this, because I think this is something, Lectio Divina.
True.
Is something I'm going to use. And I have not got the journal or anything yet, but I'm going to get it.
I did. I brought it to you as a gift today, actually.
Oh, good.
So I can give it to you now, or you can wait.
Well, I want it now.
All right. Well, here.
It's a gift.
Here,
Check I want it. This is important.
Available on Amazon.
Lectio Divina. Lectio Divina. Oh yeah, look at that. Lectio Divina.
Yeah.
Wow, this is substantially large.
So technically, that's considered a a guided journal, a guided Bible study journal, which means it's not just a blank journal, although it has lots of blank pages, but it has instructions and things like that in it. It's got a format to it, right? So it's got 4 sections per day, which align with the 4 sections of the Lectio Divina method of prayer, study, meditation.
I'm excited about this, not because I don't read my Bible. My wife reads her Bible all the time. She prays, she reads her Bible, she does all this Bible study, and she tells me I should get up in the morning, and I'm just being real, and get up, read your Bible. But I have never been that kind of a Christian. Like gets up and has like a quiet time. You go to all those things.
Yeah,
and
are you a night person or a morning person? Because that's part of it. I mean, for us night people, I'm a night owl. Getting up in the morning and doing anything that involves thinking is hard. First 2 hours, I'm like catatonic.
Yeah, I'm so obsessed with like my projects, and this could be. I get up in the morning. I don't want to read. I don't want to read the Bible. I get up. I'm like thinking. The reason I want to get up early, if I get up early, is because I've got like a lot of work to do, and I'm on it. So I always feel like reading the Bible, and this is terrible. This is terrible. I always feel like, I read the Bible. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort.
Well, and it does.
And it does. But then my wife tells me do it. I tend to like to do it other times, but I do not have a specific Bible like at 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. I'm going to read the Bible, and some people do, and maybe I'll try it with this. Maybe you're going to help me understand that. But all my years as a worship leader, it was weird because you would go to work and then they'd be like, "All right, you're at work, and now I'd go read your Bible," like I was getting paid to read my Bible, or it felt like my job was to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you can't be faking it if you're actually in the ministry, right? You have to and then it becomes an obligation, and then probably messes with your mind a little bit.
Yeah, I think you can fake it.
Or if you skip, you probably feel like totally like a hypocrite. You're like, yeah, I'm supposed to be spiritual today, but I didn't do my time with God.
Yeah, like if your pastor boss comes in and says, "All right, it's going to be we're going to have prayer at this time," then you're getting paid to pray.
That's okay. I don't mind that. I guess.
So, yeah.
As long as you pray well, because otherwise you can get fired.
Yeah, don't
something like that.
I got it. I've got an outline here, so we're going to go right through it. Before we get started, did you know that my channel statistics show that only about half of you watching right now are subscribed to the channel? If you're enjoying these sessions, please take a moment, hit the subscribe button. If you do that, I promise I'll work hard to make this channel bigger and better with every single episode. There are over 1,000 video tutorials on the new Worship the King platform that cover everything from guitar, drums, bass, vocals, live stream mixing, audio tech, and more. Through the Worship Band Builder and Propel Mentorship Program, we can work together and take your church to the next level in worship and tech. To learn more, go to worshiptheking.com and click apply.
My spiritual journey is I grew up agnostic, and I became a Christian in my senior year of college. I got involved with a kind of a spiritually abusive cult-like campus organization. It's kind of like a charismatic, nothing against charismatics, but it was an unhealthy organization. So but I was a genuine believer. And after 10 years of trying to get the toxicity out of my system, I left the faith for 8 years, and I explored atheism, agnosticism, Buddhism, yoga, Course in Miracles, psychology. And I actually learned a lot and got healed a lot from a lot of the things that were in this kind of Christian abusive situation I was in. I eventually returned to Christ because there's nothing like that. There's nothing like him out there. There's truths that Christianity has unfortunately downplayed or overlooked, but he is the center. And having a personal God to talk to was important to me. So Buddhism just kind of didn't do all that I wanted it to do. But as part of that whole journey, including inner child work and stuff like that, I realized that the inner world is so important. And so, as a Christian, I had learned a million ways to study the Bible. SOAP, Acts, praying the Lord's Prayer is a very powerful model. But I discovered this one. I don't even remember how I discovered it. But I think I was on my blog. I was doing a series on Christian methods of prayer, and I came across Lectio Divina, and it was really interesting to me. And as I started trying it, recently I've become part of CR, Celebrate Recovery, which is a Christian 12-step program.
Really?
Yes, I am. I am.
That's where we met.
Yes, but I didn't want to out you. I didn't want to out you on purpose. So you're not allowed to do that. It's like, what is it?
I don't know. It's like if I see you at Walmart, like, "Hey, Dan, are you coming to CR tonight?"
Yeah, I can't do that. No.
No.
They say you're like, whatever. I mean, I guess if we both don't care. So
no, I tell everybody. I'm not ashamed of it.
It's confidential, right? I mean,
Is
you
it?
don't want to know everybody.
Well, now
you don't want everybody to know you're in recovery.
Well,
they might think you're like honest or genuine about where you've been.
Crap. Now everybody knows. I have to cut this part out, like we're going back.
You
into
could.
Secret
That's
society.
the beauty of not being live. But anyway, one of the primary rubrics in there is regular conscious contact with God as kind of the discipline that helps you recover. And so I started using Lectio Divina as part of that, and I found it really transformative because of the method, how it moves you from, it starts you right off with reading, and you're being aware of what things are speaking to you, what's already touched. So you're already reaching out for the Holy Spirit to say, what's really going to go on here? And then you can move through intellectual study, but its goal is kind of to move you back to the experience of letting the scriptures change you and then expressing your heart to God. And that moves you into a more regular contact with God. Sometimes you hear back and sometimes you're not sure. So, but I found it a lot more fruitful than the other methods of praying. And I don't have it here, but there was a famous evangelist from the past, and he talked about what a revelation it was for him to learn to study the Bible before he prayed instead of praying and then studying the Bible, because he found that studying first gave God's a means to talk to him, to speak to him more clearly. and that it was kind of the fodder for his prayer. Like it put energy and power into his prayer instead of just saying, okay, what do I pray about? Right? He already had something to pray about because the scriptures were already moving him. And he said, I wasted years doing it the opposite way. And so this is also, I think that it takes advantage of that scripture first method of prayer.
So go back, because I didn't get to say yoga. I mean, I do yoga, but when you were an atheist?
Well, I don't think I was truly an atheist, but I explored atheism as an intellectual model.
Yeah. So early on, back before, we don't have to go too far back, but when you were young,
right,
were you just raised in a regular
agnostic scientist tone? We looked at religious people as kind of enculturated, and maybe they emotionally needed that, but it wasn't true.
Wasn't real.
No.
Okay. So when you got into college, you started looking for all these, like you were looking.
I didn't look for anything. I mean, I was searching mostly through drugs and music, and then I met these weird Christian people that started talking to me, and then one day I woke up.
So you were looking at Buddhism, yoga. You're just trying to explore all this stuff. How did you figure out what Christ was?
Well, of course, I knew I was already born again for real back in my early 20s. But I tell you what, I'll tell you the last day. I mean, I explored a lot of things, and I had to renew my mind about what I would call a healthy biblical self-love. Like when Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself. Turns out that if we don't have a healthy self-love, you can't love your neighbor. If you remember Eric Erickson's 8 stages of psychosocial development, if you ever study that, he talks about the different phases of emotional development. And one of them is identity versus identity confusion. Like you either commit to a certain identity, and that's necessary before you move into the next step, which is about relationship. So if you don't have a self to give in relationship, you're either going to, you're not going to have a good relationship. And it's the same with loving your neighbor. If you don't love yourself, you don't have anything to give to them. It's not that self-love is the only thing you need, because we really do need God's love, and that's transformative. But if we are rejecting the created self that God gave us, as opposed to the fallen self and all the things we know are wrong with ourselves, then I don't think we are grown up yet. So I had to learn healthy self-love. So I was on the 10th day of a silent retreat, a Buddhist silent retreat. It was 11 hours of sitting meditation a day. No speaking. It was the Vipassana Meditation Center out in California. And every day at 4 a.m. they'd ring the gong, and you'd have to get up and start your day and eat vegetarian food and practice as if you were alone. Like if you open the door for somebody, you don't say thank you or nothing. That you practice as if it's just you and the universe. You can't practice any other spiritual disciplines, no yoga, no nothing. And in Buddhism, there is no God. There is no personal God to talk to. There's only maybe this generic sense of compassion in the universe, but you basically spend all the time being aware of your physical body sensations. And the more you do that, the more you experience the deeper emotional patterns and things. It's almost like psychology is bringing the subconscious into the conscious. It's like that. And there's more benefits from it. But I was sitting there and I was thinking, practicing as if there's no personal God feels incomplete to me. It felt really incomplete. And then I did a couple evaluations. The first was intellectual. I thought, when I look at the worldviews that are out there that answer the tough questions about what is man like, what is God like, what's wrong, and how do we fix what is wrong, what happens in the life to come, everybody has partial answers. In Buddhism, the answer to the problem of suffering is that it's your desires, and that suffering is sort of not really real. It's just your response to what's happening, which is not a bad perspective, and you could align that with a little bit with Christianity, but it's not the ultimate solution just to follow the noble path, the fourfold path. So I was sitting there and I thought, Christianity to me is the most comprehensive and workable worldview that covers everything from relationships to politics to answers about God. And then I remembered back to my real experience when I became a Christian, that I was really changed. I mean, I learned things that nobody told me. I didn't know that you had to be holy. I just knew I didn't want to sleep with my girlfriend anymore. Like, I was it. And based on that, and I thought, well, I really don't know when I'm praying and talking to God if I'm talking to my higher self or if I'm talking to God. I think sometimes, because I hear imperfectly, I'm definitely not talking to God. But sometimes I've heard things which are so counterintuitive to me that are healing and restorative and reorienting. There's no way they had an origin in me. And I thought, nobody can know for sure anyway. Nobody can tell you're not hearing from God, or you are, unless you want to try to be predictive and say, see, all your predictions are false, therefore you're not hearing from God. But I thought, I'm just going to take Pascal's wager, and I'm going to believe that there is a God. I'm going to continue with this personal, emotional, interior conversation with God in prayer. And I came back because I felt Christianity was superior. And I brought back the things that I experienced and had to then refashion some of my Christian doctrine. Quite a bit, not a lot of it, but some of it. Okay, that's the long story.
Yeah, I mean, that thing that you said makes sense. If you can't love yourself, then that's, I think, what a lot of people struggle with, even in conversion. Like, they think there's no way God can love me. There's no way. And I guess if you become a Christian and then you're just like, you think you're so terrible, you can't never. I mean, my conversion was very radical. It was like I was a total wacko, and then I had this like moment, and I just completely turned around. So I was like, I had a very radical, like, one day experience.
But did you feel like I'm interviewing you, I'm just kidding, but did you feel like the fanaticism, maybe the emotionally based or trauma-based fanaticism you had before you were a Christian, you kind of brought in with you and then had to address that over time? Or did you feel like you just got this big transformation and a lot happened all at once?
Yeah, I was pretty young. I was like 17. I didn't have a lot of thoughts. I was just doing drugs and being a wacko, and I was suicidal. I was checking out. I was ready to just, and then my friend led me to Christ. I opened my eyes. I was like, it was weird. It was like I was like another person. So I didn't struggle. I struggled with being fanatical because once I got saved, I went and was like, everybody needs to get saved. Became a fanatical.
I think every new convert goes through that immature stage of wanting to convert everybody because it's so powerful and real to them. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was in that transformative time of your life where you're just getting out of high school, you're going to college, everything's going kind of crazy. So, but I was basically, so I didn't have like a lot of thought about it. And I don't know that I brought a lot of baggage. I mean, now I think as I'm going through my life, I can look back and see what baggage I have. But when I was younger, I didn't think that much about it. I just knew like I'm alive.
Well, I definitely brought my fanaticism into my Christianity because, like I said, I didn't care what anybody thought. At that point, I was doing drugs. I had a mohawk for a while. I was a punk. I was a redneck. I dipped skull and drank Jack Daniels. I went, tripping on mushrooms. And
were you in a band?
No, I was not. In fact,
I thought you were in a band.
I didn't
or
wait
something.
till my musical stuff until after I became a Christian. And I picked up a guitar. I started playing, and then years later, when I was away from Christ during those 8 years, I was lead singer in a rock and blues cover band, and that's where I met my wife.
Okay, yeah, I heard a little bit of that story. I was like, oh. Yeah, okay, so you were in a band, but it wasn't like before then.
No, but I was in a secular band after I became a Christian and after I left Christianity and before I came back. And it's kind of confusing. I wouldn't mind being in a secular band again, just because I love singing a lot of those songs.
You joined CR. How long ago?
It's been about 2 years.
Okay. I think I've been there about a year, maybe a year almost. Mm-hmm. What I found in CR is, in this part of our life, is like a real life. You go to church, and it's just like, it's kind of like everybody's like, how you doing? Great, man. And I mean, if it's being on church staff, you're put in this pedestal. You're kind of up there. You can't really say. It feels like you can't have struggles. It feels like you can't be.
Or if you do have struggles, you've already overcome them, or you're mostly overcome them.
You're overcome them. Yeah,
right.
You've overcome them. So CR to us has become like our church, our real, the real depth of our church, like the real. So I kind of evangelize for CR. I tell people I'm in it. Well, we found a lot of healing, and I think the church in general. I hate to say that, but I'll say it. The church in general, it's sort of like we're all there and happy and it's all good. And I know there are times maybe you can be vulnerable, but it feels like it can be a little bit of a show. And I don't know. CR feels like a place where you can go, I screwed up, I'm a mess, and people are like, yeah, me too.
Well, yeah.
Church. I know church tries to do that, but the way it's set up, it doesn't happen that way.
I definitely feel like Sundays is kind of a feeder and a place where new believers can start to get their feet, on the ground. But beyond that, we have to get beyond the superficial to the real engagement. And some churches use small groups. I think CR is a really kind of effective kind of group, because everyone that's coming there is coming there to deal with their issues. Already right away, it's real. It's not like I have to develop trust with you over 6 months and maybe I'll talk about my alcohol problem or my porn problem or whatever it is that I'm dealing with. There, it's like, okay, we're all in this, and it's just like, go. So as part of that process, though, again, I was seeking to put the 12 steps into practice, and spending regular time with God, or having conscious contact with God is how it says it. I was like, that's a little more specific than just pray and read your Bible. And I found, I'm trying to bring us back to Lectio Divina here. It's
Lectio Divina.
That's where I discovered this method, and I love it. And so I kind of took the 4 steps. I changed the names of the steps to all start with the same letter. I didn't change the meaning, because as you'll see if we go through these steps. And then I'm actually publishing a version of my journal in Spanish, and I found 4 verbs in Spanish that also, surprisingly, start with the letter R, that are faithful to the meaning of the 4 steps in Lectio Divina.
Okay. So are we on an overview of the journal? You have six essays on prayer.
Oh yeah, well, why don't we go to the number 5 at the end of the method of Lectio Divina, because I think people probably care about it.
All right, yeah,
that are curious, right?
Let's talk about it, because it's gonna bring us into a constant contact with God. If we do it,
not constant, conscious
contact with God.
Constant is quite an ideal, but regular. I would say regular.
Yeah, when they say that, like pray without ceasing, that's scary, because that's hard to do.
Well, yeah, but anyway, so
Lectio.
So Lectio means to read, right? So by the way, I've taken a little bit of my own spin on the traditional method to make it more useful, but I haven't really changed it. So in the traditional one, you read a passage over and over. But what I've done as a precursor step is I've said, take wherever you're going to read, whatever Bible study method you're using, and read and wait till something starts to become interesting to you or speak to you, right? And that's the thing that you're going to take and transfer over into your journal. And you're going to write it out by hand. And writing it out by hand is just part of the process of slowing down and hearing the words. And then you're going to, instead of reading the Bible over and over, you're going to read that verse over and over. And the method is, and by the way, the first essay of the 6 original essays I have in my journal book is how to do this.
How to practice.
Right, how to do this. So the things that I'm saying are already in there.
Yeah, so if you have the journal, then this is going to be great, because you're going to understand it, and then you're going to have the journal to do it with.
But what you do, and we can use an example, but is you read it over with different emphases, and you're just kind of turning it over in your mind. You're letting it settle in, not so much intellectually, but just into your heart and mind. So let's take one for example. Let's say I start out with, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And I don't even get any farther than that, because the scriptures are already speaking to me. All right, so I'm going to copy that over. And then I'm going to say it in my mind like this. I'm going to go like, the Lord is my shepherd. The Lord, the only Lord, the big one, right? Or the Lord is my shepherd. So it's not just my dad. It's not just my teachers. It's the Lord. And then go, the Lord is my shepherd. Well, the Lord is my shepherd. He's my shepherd right now. Not just, so that's a very easy example, but that's a way to start turning it over in your mind. The Lord is my shepherd. Oh, there's something personal. There's like a personal ownership about that. We're in relationship. The Lord is my shepherd. He's not like the boss. He's not my judge. His primary role is, it doesn't even say father here. It says shepherd. What is a shepherd like? So what happens is you emphasize different words. You're turning it over, and then you move into the second step, which is reflection. So you've already started reflection, but now you're going to start. This is the point where you could do intellectual research. You could go onto your Blue Letter Bible and look up the words. You could open up a commentary to start studying. The Lord is my shepherd. What are the characteristics of a shepherd? Look at the other versions. Oh, one of them says, I shall not want. Another version in English says, I have everything I need. So you can start intellectually studying, but what's going to happen is eventually you have to come back out of the intellectual realm for the third step, which is respond. So you're going to turn what you're learning and what's happening inside you into prayer, right? So that's the third step, which is oratio, or pray, or as I like to say, respond, right? So I have 4 R's. Read. Instead of meditatio, I have reflect. Instead of oratio, I have respond. And then instead of contemplatio, which is where you rest in God's presence, I have rest. But it's the same steps. So the third step is the crucial one. That's where you turn what you're learning into prayer. God, teach me what it means that you're my shepherd. that you're my personal shepherd, that I'm not just some generic number in your crowd. And what happens is, as you're praying, you may start to feel like you hear God speaking back. And then you can soak that in. You can also write that in your journal. Not just the things you've prayed, but sometimes you feel like you're hearing God speak very specific things. I am your shepherd. I do care about what you care about. I don't think that there's something so wrong with you that you can't succeed, right? So whatever you feel like God is saying to you, and I feel like that's what he's saying to me even in the moment. So that's why I'm telling you that. You write that down. And then rest is really important, because once you've actually felt like you moved into God's presence, we like to be like, okay, I'm done. And we rush out. And I think there's something very powerful if we're going to be transformed by the renewing of our heart and mind, as Romans 12:2 says, that we stay in the presence and let it kind of, the charismatics call it soaking. They get done with worship and they just sit there and cruise with the music, which is fine. And I think there's an element of soaking here, which is rest. This is teaching us to be keeping God first instead of moving on with our important tasks, which we think are fulfilling, but aren't the ultimate fulfillment.
So this is like the Baptist version of soaking, resting?
Could be. It's not Baptist. It's actually Benedictine in origin. Or actually, I think I wrote the history down here. It's even older than Benedict. Where is that? History of Lectio Divina. Yeah, it has roots in early monastic traditions, but there's a more detailed history of it. But it's basically, in its modern form, is a type of Benedictine method.
So this is old. This is something that is so old. Is there any other modern
12th century? I don't know if that's like halfway back to the Jesus.
That's pretty old.
Time.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like. Is there any in all of your studies, and you do a lot of this? Is there any other book like this? Is there
any other method like this?
Yeah, I mean, is there somebody who's taken this old thing like you have here and kind of modernized it? Because I like how you've done that: reading, reflecting, responding, resting. Because when I hear like meditate, how would you say meditate, or oratio, pray? I mean, those are just kind of like I don't know,
old Latin words, right?
Weird words, But you've made it pretty easy: read, reflect, respond, and rest. Is this? It seems like a really cool thing to do. To get it, what is there other?
I'm sure there are other people who have tried to modernize this. The Catholics themselves, I'm sure, have tried to, because I think they know more about using this than Protestants do. I don't know about Orthodox, but I'm just doing this because that's what I do. I mean, I'm a software analyst on purpose, not on purpose, but just by nature, because I try to make order out of disorder. I try to create simple rubrics so I can remember stuff and communicate them to other people. So this was a way for me to simplify it into something I could remember. And some of my favorite Bible teachers, I'm going to age myself here, but like Warren Wiersbe, or I can't remember the other guy. But anyway, a lot of times they'll do their outlines, and even Rick Warren does this, and sometimes all the words will start with the same letter. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I love that, but I just do. It's either easier to memorize or remember or something. But so I basically just did the same thing because that's how I organize information.
Maybe do they teach that in Bible school? Because a lot of pastors do that. They like do their 4 points and they all have an R on them or something. Probably.
I mean, I think that's one useful method. It's not the only method, but I love it. I've always loved that. I don't know why. Sometimes they do acrostics, like in CR. The acrostics I don't like so much, but they're pretty helpful too. They help you remember, like, confess, right? C stands for something. O stands for something.
Yeah, I get kind of confused on those, sort of.
If they're too long. If there's too long, or if there's too many of them, like, then I don't remember any of them. Right.
And I told you at church the other day in the hall, I don't know if you totally agreed with me, but I think songwriters could do this.
Sure. You mean to get better, I know, kind of to find the zone when you're rewriting songs, especially worship.
You would get in the zone totally on a song on this. Mm-hmm. If you took a passage and said, I'm writing a song about this, and you did exactly what you just said. By the time you got down to rest, you'd probably have a chorus.
You could,
you know
for
what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Artistically, I think and they probably do that. I mean, are people doing this? That's what I'm saying. Right? They're reading, they're reflecting, responding, resting. I think we probably do some of this, but I like how you've laid it out.
And there are other methods that are similar. There's Acts and what's the other one? SOAP. Different methods for meditative Bible study. I just like this one because its real emphasis is moving into the place of responding to God, not just prayer, but there's a type of interaction that you want to expect. Like, this is the time where I actually talk to God.
Yeah. So
I don't know. I just have found it really fruitful. And my wife is doing it now, and she loves it. And so she needs to review my book on Amazon, so something like that.
yeah. So so you can get this on Amazon. Let's say I did get this book on Amazon. Should I do this like once a day or something?
How often do you, yeah, that's what I aim for. I don't
Just-
succeed, but I
so
try
you'd
to meet
say-
with God every day in the morning. Right now, I'm in between jobs. I actually have a new job starting on the 12th. So
Oh,
it's really easy. I
congratulations.
get up at 9, I have a cup of coffee, I sit down with my Bible at 10 o'clock. I just take my time. So, but when I have a job again, I don't know where I'm going to fit that into my, it depends how early I have to start.
Look at this. This is cool. Periodic review.
Oh yeah, that's like one of the features, right, of the book is that every so many lessons, I think it's actually 7 days or 14, can't remember, but you kind of summarize what God's been saying to you and kind of capture that. What else does it say there?
Yeah. What is God saying to me? And then goals I should be focusing on. Diet, sleep, exercise, finances, relationship, learning, projects, other people I want to connect with, and overall satisfaction with the book or just with yourself,
In
your
life, yeah. Just to see how you're doing over time. You could maybe graph that if you want, get a habit tracker on your phone and start measuring that stuff.
I'm gonna need to do that. I think I could raise my overall satisfaction by like at least 50%, especially from now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm on a very low spot right now. So
Well,
if I start this, I could get encouraged because I've been going through such a tough time with my family, and
well, sometimes basic disciplines really do kind of lift us up, whether it's exercise like Krav Maga or, and
yeah, I could.
if you're not too, and by the way, the same method doesn't always work every day. Some days, although rarely, because I like this method, it won't work for me. I'm like, no. So I just like take it easy. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go read a book. I'm going to listen to Rick Warren. I'm going to, I choose some other related spiritual discipline, and I don't freak out about it not working today. Like I didn't hear from God or whatever. But this is my mainstay, and it's so regularly fruitful. I'm kind of shocked.
How do you pick the scripture? Just random?
Me personally, I'm just random. I just like pick a book of the Bible to study, and I study it. And I go as slow as I need to. In fact, one of the things I learned recently, I was doing Psalm 119, which is like, the really long psalm, and it's super repetitive. And I learned a lot by slowing down and using this method on it because I realized like a lot of it is talking about like God teach me your ways. And I learned a lot about his ways by slowing down and studying Psalm 119 because they're hidden in there. Because there's a lot of repetition, but in each section he introduces one or two new ideas. So it's kind of like on top of the things you know now, now this, now that. So slowing down teaches you God's ways. It's just kind of weird because we have a tendency to move too fast. So wait for something to start to speak to you, put it in there, slow down, turn it over 10 times, and then I found that really useful. Right now I'm in 1 Peter. And I just choose them randomly. I don't really have a method for choosing what I'm going to study.
So Charles Spurgeon's one of my favorite, maybe one of my only. I'm not into a lot of old theologians, but it's cool. You have these quotes on the top of the page.
I did. It was a little confusing. I chose by hand. I can tell you a funny story about that. So I tried to use AI to like get me like 150 quotes about Bible study and prayer. It sucked so bad. The results, they repeated things, they misquoted. So I ended up having actually to look all those up the old-fashioned way by Googling them and actually looking for original sources and quotes and stuff like that because AI couldn't do it. In fact, one of my essays I tried to do with AI, same thing. It was so terrible. I told it the topic I wanted to write about. It did such a crappy job, I just rewrote the whole article, the whole essay by hand because it's still not in the place where I wanted to say what I wanted to say. So anyway, but those quotes are handpicked, and there's just one on each page. They don't have anything to do with the scripture you're reading. They're just some insight onto Bible study or prayer. That's the topic for all of those quotes. So you had one from Spurgeon that you liked?
Yeah. This one here on 119. I would rather lay my soul a soak in half a dozen verses all day than rinse my hand in several chapters. Oh, to be bathed in the text of Scripture and to let it be sucked up into your very soul till it saturates your heart. I think that would do that. That's the problem with Bible reading and everything. You just read it. I've never read I don't think I've read the whole Bible all the way through. I usually like try to do it, then I stop doing it. And I think I know people have done it like 10 times. My wife's done it a couple times.
I can't do it either.
I can't do it.
One of them is the read the Bible in a year is actually way too fast.
Yeah.
Do you remember the old radio Bible teacher, J. Vernon McGee?
I do.
In the Bible bus. And he would take people through the Bible in 5 years. He would teach expositionally through the Bible in 5 years. And I think that's about the right pace if you want to read the whole Bible and study it at the same time. If you just want to cruise through it, you could do it in a year. But it just was not helpful to me to try to do that.
According to Spurgeon, it would not be good because he's just saying you could... Because what you just did on the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
I didn't even get to that. No.
The Lord is my shepherd. That is such a powerful, just one sentence.
And they're not all like that. I just chose that one because I know that one is...
You chose the golden one.
It's full of like stuff in each word. Not every passage is like that, but you'll be surprised if you study like this. For instance, I learned doing this that the opening doxal, which is the beginning, the opening benediction at the beginning of the letters of Paul or Peter or whatever, they sound very general, like grace and peace to you, but actually he's introducing his topic and he sometimes summarizes his points in that opening prayer. Like it's not just generic, it's very specific. And when I slowed down to read it and I thought, oh my gosh, he's talking about past, present, and future in this prayer. Like it's not just some generic, hi, how are you? And so slowing down made me find things in the Bible that I didn't even know were there because I was just glossing over them. Oh, yeah, that's just the opening prayer. Let's get to the meat of what he was going to say. So along those lines, for fun, because I do this anyway, I'm developing a course on the different methods of prayer, not just Lectio Divina. I mean, there's more than a dozen classic methods of prayer, including, check this out, see this right here? This is it's a rosary beads, but it's not Catholic because I can't pray to Mary, even though my wife might be able to do that. This is an Anglican rosary. It has a different number and order of beads, and Anglican rosary is only decades old, so it's not like something from a long time ago.
I was trying to hold that up there. I was trying to like show it to the camera.
Anyway, so all that is to say is I'm studying all these other methods of prayer for my course, so that's kind of my upsell in the future. So I'm actually studying and trying to make great content for a course, and I was just mentioning that. That's what this is about because I'm practicing the
you told me about this.
The Anglican Rosary, and I'm not
like,
entirely successful at it yet. It's a little hard actually, but I'm learning.
So is this like the Catholic Rosary, only it's like the Protestant version of it, or
right? Because Anglican's Protestant, yeah.
So
there's no prayer to Mary. It's mostly praying scripture. It's kind of really open-ended. There isn't an official, because there's no pope in Protestantism, so there's more than one way to do it. And you get to do whatever you want.
What year did they make this? Is this old school? This is old, right?
Well, no. I mean, it's only this method, this Protestant rosary, so to speak, is only decades old. Like, I don't know. I'm still researching it. But
okay, so it's not like 300 or 500 years
old. Or
1,000.
None of that. No, it's not as old as the Catholic rosary. But
so somebody came up with like a Christian. They were probably Catholic, and then they became a Christian.
Well, there is Protestant high church, right? So the Anglicans and the Episcopalians, and to some extent the Presbyterians, can be high church Protestants.
So where do you get this?
Amazon.
You just type in Anglican Rosary?
Yes, Anglican Rosary beads, and that cost me $10, and it's a little too small. I wish the beads were bigger, but I didn't want to pay for the big expensive one.
Do you get one you put around your neck, like a big?
You could, I guess.
You should start wearing that around church, and
that would be a conversation starter for sure. I'm not much for jewelry,
but I've never seen. But is this a bracelet or a?
No, it's you can't. That's how I carry it around, but it's just you're supposed to carry it in your pocket.
Okay, I have a bracelet.
Because you can pray because you go along the beads with your thumb, and so you could actually pray while it's in your pocket.
You have to memorize something.
Yes, you do have to memorize something, and that's the question: is what do you memorize? And I can talk about what I know so far, but that's I don't know enough to be teaching it yet.
And Dan, I think you're doing the right thing. I think you're creating out of your passion, and you're creating like good, solid.
It's funny. I've got all these doctrinal things and books that I want to write. Actually, my next book is in the hopper right now. It's about healthy self-love in a biblical perspective. It's more than that. It's a self-help book, but it's funny that I just did this one first because I feel like that's what God is emphasizing to me is, okay, you want to do ministry? First things first, bro. actually have to meet with me on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I know you're, older and you still haven't learned this, have you? It's basic, but it's not easy. And I feel like, that level of character and consistency is something that's really hard for me to do. And this has helped me a lot because it's made it easier. I know it sounds funny, but I need that lowering of the barrier to getting things done. And this has kind of done that for me.
So what's your big project site now? WholeReason.com?
WholeReason.com is my blog. I've been doing it for over 20 years.
Dude, that's way before blogs were even
2003 I started. And they weren't. They were sort of a thing.
They were a blog. Okay, yeah, blogs were blogs then, right?
I think so. But that's where I put all my stuff right now. I haven't differentiated into like different streams. Like I got some other ones I kind of started when I was going to write a book on recovery from toxic faith. But right now, Whole Reason is my main thing. It's got a shop page from the top menu where you can go find this.
Whole Reason, WholeReason.com.
WHOLE, yeah. And but yeah, it's definitely not professional. Basically, you click onto the art. I mean, it is, but if you click on the article for that, the entry for that, and you click on the image, it takes you right to Amazon.
Get the book. That's gonna wrap this episode with Daniel. Am I gonna call you DG Sinclair?
I think you should, because like all these really cool guys just use their initials, like E.M. Cummings or E.C. Cummings. I can't remember his name.
DG. Where's your name? Your name's not on the book.
You know what? Because it was a journal, I felt like I wasn't really an author, so the name is inside the book. But on the second edition, I'm already working on the second edition of this.
Okay.
People shouldn't have to wait long. I mean, by the time you get this out, the second edition will be out. It's actually done. I'm actually going to put my name on the front cover. But I just felt awkward about that because it's a blank journal. You're the author. But I felt weird about it. So it is right now only on the inside cover. But all those essays are getting a improvement, and that'll be out actually this week. So by the time you get this podcast out, the second edition will be clearly.
Go to Amazon, click the link in this video description, and get this book, and then share it with your friends. Buy some for Christmas. I mean, it's not Christmas yet; it's summer, but this episode will be up forever, Dan. And so it may be close to Christmas sometime.
Well, if it gets ranked, then it might actually show up in search results even 6 months from now.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you share the video with your friends. That would be huge. Buy the book on Amazon. Leave Dan a review. He needs it. He's a new author, and I know what that's like. And if you're an author on Amazon, you know what that's like too. Actually, if you're an author, put your book in the description. Me and Dan will leave you a review on your book. And Dan, thanks for coming in. Hopefully we'll do more of this. And if you guys have topics that you want to hear me and Dan ramble about, put them in the description of this video.
And we'll try not to ramble. We'll be like, okay.
Dan will try not to ramble, and I will try to take every rabbit trail I can find to get it there.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
All right, man.